Kim contemplated the subjective and finally spoke about it. Although he was eager for a promotion, he never wished harm upon civilians. Despite the quietness of the area, others mentioned that monsters appeared at the border daily since the North Korean army had been wiped out. Kim believed that 2 days of experience as a private were enough for him and he was ready to advance. Lee said that since Kim was performing so well, he would be promoted quickly, then asked Kim if he was even listening. Kim thought about any blue gate opening. Just then, someone announced over the speaker from the command and control center, declaring an emergency. A significant number of middle bats had suddenly appeared at the oil reserve. All hunters were ordered to gather at the oil reserve and install the protective shield immediately. The announcement was repeated. Lee asked Kim to hurry. Kim was happy to hear that. Middle bats were child-sized creatures living in colonies. Individually, they didn't pose a great threat, but they were incredibly agile and capable of using fireballs to attack. Their presence at the oil reserve was an emergency situation that could potentially blow up the entire military camp. At the entrance to the oil reserve, 2 hunters stood with guns, but they were scared because there were so many bats. The second hunter asked how the bats dared to come there and then prepared to shoot them. The first hunter stopped him, explaining that they weren't supposed to fire near the oil reserve because of the risk of causing an explosion if the bats started attacking. The second hunter asked if they had to just keep watching the bats. The first hunter replied that since the others hadn't yet arrived at the oil reserve, they should observe the situation and wait. He was sure that someone would be sent to install the protective shield. The second hunter then asked what they would do if the monsters set the oil reserve on fire before the shield was put up. Both of them imagined the oil reserve exploding, and the second hunter said that even the thought of that horrified him. He wondered what they should do. The first hunter replied that he didn't know why the bats had shown up either. Just then, Kim arrived, saying he would attract the bats. The 2 hunters were shocked and asked if he was the newbie from the second company and what he was planning to do without any equipment. One of them told Kim to fall back. Kim wondered who had time to wait for equipment when the precious opportunity to advance was waiting for him. He envisioned earning the title of the private who single-handedly stopped an emergency that could have wiped out the entire military camp, along with gaining a wealth of experience points. Kim then recalled a time when he had encountered a monster. He stopped reminiscing and realized that the bats were reacting to his demonic energy. Other hunters arrived, urging everyone to hurry and ensure the equipment didn't get damaged. As they walked, the hunter in the lead suddenly stopped. The other asked why he had stopped. Then both of them saw Kim and were shocked by the sight. Kim approached the 2 guards at the oil reserve and told them to stop staring into space and install the shield immediately. They agreed and began the installation. Sung saw Kim killing the bats with his mana and was shocked that Kim was drawing all their attention while the others only watched. As Kim continued to kill the bats, he thought it was taking too long and wished he could rip them apart more quickly. Just then, Sung called out to Kim, telling him to lower his stance and fall back, questioning what Kim thought he was doing without even a bulletproof vest. Kim considered lowering his stance but was determined to continue, thinking it was his chance and finding the situation thrilling. Suddenly, Sung's stomach acted up, and he fell to his knees. Kim approached him and asked if he was okay. Sung managed to say he was fine. Kim asked if he was sure and requested to borrow something. Sung told him there was no need to fall back and handed Kim an electric baton. Kim reassured Seung, saying he would be back in a jiffy after taking care of the bats. He felt great and was eager to battle. With the shock stick, he and the others attacked the bats. Lee observed that Kim was overpowering all the bats. Then, they saw a bat preparing to use a fireball. Kim asked the guards to shoot the bat and assured them he would take responsibility, urging them to fire openly. They agreed, and as they prepared to attack, they saw Kim had already positioned himself behind the bat. Kim quipped, "Didn't you hear that if you play with fire, you'll get burned?" and then struck the bat dead. Other hunters wondered how Kim had managed to get up there and jump so high. Afterward, they finally installed the protective shield around the oil reserve and were instructed to ensure all the cables were secure. One of the hunters asked about the middle bats and how much longer it would take to gather all the corpses. Another hunter called out to Kim and saluted him. Kim responded, saying it was good work, but questioned where the bats had come from, as none had been detected on the radar. The man tried to change the subject, asking who had barbecued the bats so well, and how many there were in total. One hunter reported there were 30 bats. Another hunter wondered where the captain had gone. Someone mentioned that Captain Song would be arriving shortly. Song thought to himself that even though he doesn't specialize in combat, it wasn't acceptable for an awakened executive to be absent during an emergency and only show up after everything had been resolved. The commander was probably watching the monster radar from the control center. Then, one of the hunters told Seung that he was responsible for roasting the bats and that he would make sure to inform the battalion commander about it. Sung clarified that it wasn't him. The man asked who it was and if there was anyone else in the battalion as skilled with an electric baton. Song replied that it wasn't just the ones killed with the electric baton. One person had defeated all 30 bats. He suggested making such a report. The man was shocked and asked if Song was joking, questioning whether the bats that had been torn apart were also killed by the same person. He pointed out that all the executives were off duty, so if it wasn't Seung, who could it have been? Just then, Kim approached, saluted Seung, and said he came to return the electric baton, though it had gotten broken. He asked if it was expensive. The next day, Lee called Kim and asked if he had re-enlisted there. Kim denied it. Lee asked if he was a regressor or something else, and Kim denied that too. Lee advised him not to do anything rash like he did the previous day. He mentioned that Kim might have been lucky, but as a hunter, he never knew what could happen next time. Kim thought to himself that it wasn't luck, and that he should keep his mouth shut. Lee explained that, as they knew, the Hunter Corps was a special unit. It was different from the regular military, starting with the scale of its divisions, since it consisted of only 4 battalions each. The battalions themselves were also composed of significantly fewer troops than in the regular military. Kim thought this was because not all the awakened kept re-enlisting, but he wondered why Lee was talking about that. Lee asked if Kim knew how this was all possible. Kim was confused by the question. Lee then explained that it was because every single person within the Hunter Corps was awakened, and not everyone engaged in battle. And there were quite a few officers who specialized in administration, monster theory, tactics and weapon research. Although they were also awakened, in the Hunter Corps, Kim could only advance based on his accomplishments and talents. Kim thought that being called to the battalion commander's office first thing in the morning meant there would be some good news, but he wondered what this information session was about. Lee asked if Kim anticipated something special since he was called to the battalion commander's office and told him to keep looking forward to it. That day, the hunter who had defeated the most monsters in the 104th Division was scheduled to visit their battalion. Du arrived by car, and Jun saluted him. Sung, Kyo-song and Seo were standing there as well. Du shook hands with Seong and said that he had heard how Sung calmly handled the situation the previous day and appreciated his work. Sung thanked him for that. Kim wondered how strong the 2-star from the Hunter Corps would be. Then Du shook hands with Kim and asked for his name. As they shook hands, Kim noticed that Du's grip was exceptionally strong. Du, being friendly, pushed Kim gently and instructed everyone to relax. He asked if they had determined which direction the middle bats came from. Jun confirmed that it was from the north, about 1.2 kilometers from the battalion, and they had restricted access to the area while investigating the gate's rank. Du advised them that once it was confirmed, they should inform the division commander's office directly. Then, Song mentioned that there was also an issue with the radar. He explained that the alarm didn't go off until the bats approached the battalion, and it was confirmed that it wasn't an equipment malfunction. They were currently checking for any blind spots. Du suggested that if it wasn't an equipment malfunction, it might be due to the sheer numbers of bats. He instructed them to report this to the Divisional Ordnance Office and to set up 2 more radars. Jun agreed with the plan. Kim observed that everyone seemed tense, which was great for him. Du told Kim that he was indeed courageous the previous day and that his initial response was commendable, but he should be more careful in the future. He jokingly remarked that at least Kim hadn't forgotten to bring equipment. Kim apologized for that lapse and reflected that if he had brought equipment, the battalion might have fared better against the females. Du reassured Kim that he didn't need to apologize, as he was only joking. He had heard that Kim had eliminated 30 middle bats by himself, to which Kim agreed. Du continued, emphasizing that if Kim hadn't reacted as swiftly as he did, the oil reserve might have exploded, and he handled the situation well. He then congratulated Kim and presented him with a gift, stating that although under regular circumstances, there would be various procedures to follow, a soldier who had achieved exceptional accomplishments should be rewarded promptly. Kim expressed his gratitude for the recognition. Du instructed June to grant Kim a vacation for 3 days and 2 nights, which June agreed to. Kim was surprised by how quickly things were progressing for him. Not only did he receive recognition, but now he also had a vacation. Military life was becoming increasingly exciting for him. Kim was walking with Lee, who expressed his appreciation for Kim's work. Lee mentioned that they hadn't even had time to exchange a few words since Kim had been transferred, yet Kim had already accomplished so much. He thanked Kim, acknowledging that Kim's efforts had also reflected positively on him. Kim expressed his gratitude for the recognition. Lee remarked that it was the first time Kim would be going home since enlisting, and he asked Kim what he planned to do outside. Kim left the military base and headed into town, eventually reaching a PC room to play Dungeon Power Fighter. He thought to himself that even if he were to go home, he would have to enter a restricted area with no internet connection. Therefore, he decided to spend the 3 days and 2 nights at the PC room to avoid wasting time on traveling. Hi guys, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy the content.